How does Corlys Velaryon die? House of the Dragon explained spoiler warning. Before we begin, this video contains major spoilers for House of the Dragon, George R.R. Martin's Fire and Blood, and the later events of the Dance of the Dragons. If HBO follows the source material, we'll be discussing Corlys Velaryon's ultimate fate, his final years, and the legacy he left behind. With that said, let's get started. If there's one character in House of the Dragon who has survived against impossible odds, it's Lord Corlys Velaryon. Known across Westeros as the Sea Snake, Corlys has outlived kings, queens, dragon riders, and some of the greatest warriors in the Seven Kingdoms. He's crossed oceans no one else dared to sail, built House Velaryon into the richest family in Westeros, fought in countless battles, and somehow he's still standing while almost everyone around him falls. But eventually, even the greatest sailor reaches his final harbor. So, how does Corlys Velaryon die? Is he killed in battle? Does one of his enemies finally get revenge? Or does the legendary sea snake meet a very different end? Let's break it all down. By the time the Dance of the Dragons begins, Corlys is already considered one of the greatest men in Westeros. Long before dragons went to war, he became famous through his legendary voyages. He sailed farther east than almost any Westerosi before him, returning home with unimaginable wealth, rare treasures, exotic goods, and enough gold to transform House Velaryon into one of the most powerful houses in the realm. Without Corlys, House Velaryon would never have reached the influence we see in House of the Dragon. But despite all his success, his greatest challenge wasn't at sea. It was surviving the civil war that tore his family apart. Throughout the dance, Corlys loses almost everything: his wife, Princess Rhaenys Targaryen, his children, his grandchildren, friends, allies, ships, his fleet, even the future he spent decades trying to build. Few characters suffer as many personal losses during the war, yet somehow he continues fighting. Not because he wants power anymore, but because someone has to keep the realm from collapsing completely. One of the reasons Corlys survives so long is because he understands something many other nobles never do. Wars eventually end, even the bloodiest ones. Someone has to rebuild afterward. While younger lords chase glory, Corlys begins thinking about peace, stability, and the future of the kingdom. That wisdom eventually makes him one of the most respected political figures remaining after the dance. Following the war, Corlys serves as Hand of the King. It's an extraordinary ending for someone who spent most of his life commanding ships rather than kingdoms. His experience, patience, and political intelligence become just as valuable as his legendary naval skills once were. In many ways, the Sea Snake finishes his life exactly as he lived it, serving the realm, not simply chasing personal ambition. So, how does he actually die? Surprisingly, not in battle, not by assassination, not at the hands of dragons. According to Fire and Blood, Corlys Velaryon dies of old age. After surviving one of the bloodiest conflicts in Targaryen history, after watching dragons destroy kingdoms, after enduring betrayals, storms, wars, and unimaginable personal tragedy, the Sea Snake dies peacefully in his own bed. He is around 79 years old, an extraordinary age for a nobleman living in the violent world of Westeros. In a story where so many beloved characters meet brutal ends, Corlys receives something almost no one else does: a natural death. That may sound simple, but it's actually incredibly meaningful. George R.R. Martin rarely allows his greatest characters to die peacefully. Ned Stark is executed. Robb Stark is murdered. Oberyn Martell dies in combat. Tywin Lannister is killed by his own son. Peaceful deaths are incredibly rare. Corlys earning one isn't an accident. It's almost a reward for surviving everything life threw at him. There's another beautiful detail hidden in his ending. Throughout his entire life, Corlys was obsessed with the sea. He believed exploration defined a person's legacy. Ships came and went, storms passed, kingdoms rose and fell, but the sea remained eternal. By dying peacefully, he finally reaches the harbor he spent his whole life searching for. It's a poetic ending for a man known as the Sea Snake. Many fans also overlook one important fact. Corlys doesn't leave behind dragons. He leaves behind something much greater, a legacy. His voyages changed Westeros forever. His wealth elevated House Velaryon to unimaginable heights. His political decisions helped stabilize the kingdom after one of its darkest periods. And his name became legendary across the known world. Even centuries later, people still remember Corlys Velaryon as one of the greatest sailors who ever lived. Few characters in George R.R. Martin's universe can claim that kind of lasting impact. There's also something deeply tragic about his final years. Although Corlys survives, almost everyone he loved is gone. Rhaenys, Lucerys, Jacaerys. Many members of his family never live long enough to enjoy the peace he helped create. In many ways, his greatest victory comes at the highest possible price. He saves the future, but loses much of his own family along the way. That bittersweet ending perfectly captures George R.R. Martin's writing. Victory rarely feels complete. Survival often carries its own burden. One fascinating detail from Fire and Blood is that Corlys remains respected by both allies and former enemies. That's an incredible achievement during a civil war. Very few people emerge from the dance with their reputation intact. Yet Corlys's wisdom eventually earns admiration across political lines. He proves that leadership isn't measured only by victories in battle. Sometimes the greatest leaders are the ones who know when to stop fighting. If HBO follows the books closely, Corlys's final chapters may become some of the most emotional moments in the entire series. Not because they're filled with dragons or massive battles, but because they show something rarely seen in Westeros. An old warrior finally finding peace. After decades of serving his family, his queen, and the realm, the Sea Snake is finally allowed to rest. There's another reason his death feels so important. Corlys represents the end of an era. When he dies, one of the last great figures who personally witnessed the height of Targaryen power is gone. The age of legendary explorers, powerful dragon lords, and ambitious dreamers slowly begins to fade. A new generation inherits a kingdom forever changed by war. And without Corlys guiding it, the realm loses one of its wisest voices. So, how does Corlys Velaryon die? Not with a sword in his hand, not surrounded by dragonfire, not on the deck of a sinking ship. Instead, he dies peacefully after a lifetime unlike any other. A man who crossed oceans no one believed could be crossed, who survived wars few others escaped, who outlived kings, queens, dragons, and countless enemies. Sometimes, the greatest victory isn't winning the final battle. It's simply living long enough to see peace return. And perhaps that's why Corlys Velaryon's ending is one of George R.R. Martin's most beautiful conclusions. Because after spending his entire life chasing the horizon, the Sea Snake finally finds calm waters. So, what do you think? Do you believe Corlys Velaryon is one of the greatest characters in House of the Dragon? Or is there another legendary figure from the Dance of the Dragons whose story moved you even more? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more House of the Dragon explainers, Fire and Blood lore, hidden details, character histories, and everything from the world of A Song of Ice and Fire.